the toughest games remaining on Tennessee's schedule would be the first round of the college football playoff. No, that's getting ahead of myself. It would be Georgia and Alabama. Today's tough question, most winnable game between those two. You have Georgia at home, plays down to every single opponent except for basically Tennessee last year because a former Tennessee quarterback decided to get on the radio and get Georgia's fans fired up. And you have an Alabama team that's going to want revenge. So which of the two is the more winnable games? Now, I want to start with Caleb on this. And I'm going to ask you to predict here. Caleb, what do you think the lines would be? I know you're a big-time gambler, so if you could just – I know I'm putting you on the spot, asking you to predict, but what do you think the lines would be, Georgia at home, Alabama on the road?
I think it'll be 7-9 Georgia on the road. I think it'll be 11-14 Alabama, or Georgia at home, 11-14 Alabama on the road. I think you're going to look at close to 2 touchdowns for Alabama on the road.
Okay, well, I was going to think 9-10 for about both. John, what do you think of that number before we get into the more winnable game?
Well, I think it's hard to set it now because of what's coming up. Alabama playing A&M this week, Tennessee playing A&M the following week. I think the Alabama game could be – I think both lines could be under what you're saying. But that's incumbent upon how well Tennessee plays against Texas A&M. I think that's going to sort of reshape how the rest of the season, the outlook for the rest of the season, that Texas A&M Tennessee game.
Travis says it's definitely Georgia. Appalachian Red Root said, Travis, I agree because of location. Guys, I disagree. I think Alabama is the more beatable team this season, and I know they've got revenge on their mind, but John, I saw that team get pushed around by Texas, and Tennessee's defensive front's pretty stout in a different sort of way, maybe not as big and strong, but fast and make plays. I think the Alabama game now is more winnable, and I don't know that I would have said that before the season. You?
Yeah, I agree with you. I kind of, even though Georgia had a rough outing against Auburn, the game went in, it was undecided right until the end. I was really impressed with Carson Beck at quarterback. Tremendous pressure on a guy trying to win a third consecutive national championship, replacing Stetson Bennett. Hostile environment, his first hostile environment as a starting quarterback, and he was on target in that fourth quarter. He got the ball to Brock Bowers every time he needed to. Georgia is better prepared to exploit Tennessee's defensive weaknesses than Alabama is. I mean, Alabama, running games might be about the same. Alabama gets an edge because of quarterback Jalen Milroe, but overall, Georgia has better receivers and it has a much better passer. So home field advantage notwithstanding, I would still say Georgia.
Caleb?
I disagree with both you guys. And this is not based on last week's game. I'm actually mostly with John. I think people are overreacting to Georgia struggling at Auburn. That's a SEC rivalry game on the road against a good coach at Auburn, who I think very lowly of as a human, but I think very highly of as a coach in Hugh Freeze. I picked Auburn to cover that day. I said at the beginning of the year that Georgia was a more likely win for Tennessee than Alabama, and I'm sticking to it partially because of the home versus road scenario, but there's also the factor that I think Alabama's learning how to use Jalen Milroe now. He's not a great quarterback. They are turning him into a run-first quarterback, which at the college level, it's kind of it's a throwback, but you can win with that. And there's kind of been a defensive renaissance in college football if you track the data and the points over the past couple of years. So I think it fits with what Alabama's doing. And look, I think y'all are short selling their defense to a certain degree. People look at the fact that they gave up 34 points to Texas. Well, they gave up 13 points through the third quarter, and the defense just couldn't. Again, they couldn't get any support from the offense, and that's how that went down in the fourth quarter. So I think it's Georgia is more winnable, mostly because I think Mike Bobo is most likely to choke away a game, more likely to do that than Nick Saban. Mike Bobo just learned that he had Brock Bowers like 2 weeks ago. He's just like, I have this great tight end that everybody in the world knew was good. Maybe I should use him. And so that's why I think it helps Tennessee.
No, and John, I will say this. with Jalen Milroe, that could be a game where Tennessee theoretically outplays Alabama. But with Tennessee's vertical pass rush, could he bust a gap or two and make a couple of plays that could change the whole flow of the game? Yes, I think that's a real possibility. Carson Beck doesn't give you that to that extent.
No, I agree, but I would still rather face a running quarterback than a player that can throw the ball as well as Carson Beck does. Keep in mind that Georgia's receiving core could be much better by the time it gets to Tennessee. Ladd McConkey is just working his way back into the rotation. He's a dynamic wide receiver. Pair him with Bowers and some of those other guys, and I think Georgia's passing game will keep getting better. I just see more of an upside with Georgia in the second half of the season than I do with Alabama. I just think, and I'm not shortchanging Alabama's defensive front. It's playing well. But I would still, if you're going to pick a game to win, I would pick Alabama over Georgia.
Well, and the other thing about Georgia that I want to get to that we have to address, and it's tough, and it's not something you can really wrap your hands around, but it's a factor. First, let me tell you about Zen Sports. Zen Sports is the new sports book in Tennessee, revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. That means no more deposit bonuses that turn into deposit nightmares. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get. And with their cash rewards program, you get a lot of cash. For a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days when you sign up with promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED, unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting, keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month. After that, support our sponsors, and that's Zen Sports. You refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards too. Zen Sports bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Zen Sports betting just got better. Call 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 and over and in Tennessee to bet. Support our sponsors, Zen Sports. The thing that we don't know, guys, Georgia played down to their competition for 80% of the season last year, and still, even in the college football playoff, and John still won a national title. So do we ever know how good in these past 18 months Georgia really is?
Yeah, Georgia also had some dominant games last season. I don't think this team is nearly as complete as the last one was. It doesn't have a big play running back. It's moved a wide receiver into the running back to, into the backfield to try and get more playmaking ability there. Its defense isn't as good. Nazir Stackhouse at nose tackle can't do what the last two nose tackles did. Jalen Carter and before him, what was his name? Jordan Davis. Those guys took up two blockers. Just about everybody double teamed them. And it freed some players, particularly those really good linebackers, to make more plays. Georgia's not putting a lot of pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. I don't think that's a matter of not playing up to their potential. I think that's just kind of what Georgia is right now. It's just not as good at some positions that were crucial last season. And while I like Carson Beck, what he's done, he's not as good as Stetson Bennett. And so they're at Georgia overall now. It's not playing that great at the line of scrimmage on either side of the ball.